In this life, the only thing that is certain is that someday you will die. So the only question that remains is, will your photos and videos die with you? As a creative, the photos and videos that we create are our legacy. Unfortunately, we spend far too much time dreaming about the next lens or making a viral video reel, and we do not spend near enough time on managing the content we've already created. Here's a harsh truth. If you are a creator of things, you're 100% responsible to make sure that those creations survive. It's kind of like being a parent. Nobody else cares about them like you do. Nobody else is as invested in them as you are. Don't just trust the survival of your content to a cheap USB drive or some geek that works in IT. Digital asset management is the process of organizing, distributing, managing, and archiving photos and videos. Photographers actually spend most of their time working on digital asset management and not taking pictures. For every photo or video, there are two phases of digital asset management. First comes the active phase, and that includes the moment of creation till about 5 years of the life of the image. That includes the culling, captioning, editing, and distribution of those assets. Most creatives have a system in place to help them accomplish all these tasks, and it's really the easiest part of digital asset management because you're motivated to move images through the active phase, because if you don't deliver the assets to your client, you don't get paid. If you want to learn more about how we manage our assets during the active phase, go check out our video on the basics of digital asset management. The archive phase lasts from about 5 years till, well, forever. Let's be honest, archiving is hard. It's the most neglected part of digital asset management. It's easy to get complacent because archiving isn't urgent and it doesn't send you a fat check every month. Creatives lean towards trusting the technology they are using and make the mistake of active storage being treated as archival. Here's another harsh truth that you need to hear. Every storage device will eventually fail. I can't tell you how many calls and emails I've got from other photographers who can't access their hard drives and want to know how to fix them because all of their photos are on that drive. Losing photos and videos that you spent so much time creating is one of the worst feelings in the world. The purpose of this video is to help you avoid having to know that pain. A question you might be having right now is, why should I listen to this guy? And honestly, it's a valid point. I'm just some guy on the internet. I'm not the expert, but I have paid the price of experience. And hopefully you can learn from some of the mistakes that I've made during my career. I want to keep this super simple, so I only have 2 rules for archiving. First of all, multiple copies, multiple locations. All of your data needs to be backed up with multiple copies in multiple locations because redundancy is essential to preserving your images. Second, keep migrating forward. Everybody wants a solution that you only have to do once and it will be good forever, but that solution does not exist. Technology will always create newer and better solutions, and you need to be ready and willing to move your archives to those new solutions in order to protect that long-term viability. In 2001, we were still using film and archiving was super easy. All you had to do is take that film and put it in a plastic sleeve, drop it in a cabinet, and you were archived. We scanned in film when we needed it, and if you lost the scan, you could always go back to the original and scan it again. Then came the Nikon D1, and our world changed overnight. All of a sudden, these digital files were easy to create and duplicate, but the real challenge was, how do we archive all these files? In 2001, storage was extremely expensive. In fact, a hard drive storage cost about $7 per gigabyte, which works out to $7,000 per terabyte. But in 2001, we didn't even know what a terabyte was. Those hard drives were pretty small. They only held about 40 to 60 gigabytes a day, and I'll tell you, the storage world was not ready for the onslaught of selfies that were about to hit it. Over the years, I've used pretty much every storage device possible. Everything from CDs to DVDs to Blu-rays to iPods to zip drives to jazz drives and many, many hard drives. Storage can become overwhelming, so let's try to simplify it. In the storage world, they like to classify storage into 3 different tiers. First of all is hot storage. Storage that's on a computer's hard drive, or it's an external drive that's plugged into your computer. It's data that you need to be able to access quickly and with speed, so you can cull, rename, caption, and edit that data. This is the fastest and most expensive type of storage, and it's usually reserved for that first year of your data's life. Next comes warm storage, and that's data that needs to be accessible, but it doesn't need to be frequently accessed or edited. It's data that usually resides on a local network like a NAS online storage device or a RAID storage device. Generally speaking, these are all going to be files that are less than 5 years old. Cold storage is offline storage. It's going to be accessed infrequently and at usually a much slower speed. Because of the slower speed, it's going to be the lowest cost storage. The cold storage tier is where your archive should live. The goal of your archive is to protect the data so that it will be accessible forever. The archive phase is going to last you from about 5 years until forever. Why wouldn't you want that backup to be online and accessible? Well, first of all, hard drives will last longer if they're not constantly going to be plugged in and spinning. So offline storage is going to extend the life of those hard drives. Secondly, and probably even more important, is security. If your archival data is offline, it protects that data from being accessed or corrupted by hackers using cyber attacks like ransomware. Thankfully, we're living in one of the best eras for storage. We have plenty of options that range in both convenience and price. It's also way cheaper than $7,000 a terabyte. Let's talk about the main storage options. First of all comes RAID, which means redundant array of independent drives. And in RAID, the data is spread out over multiple hard drives so that if one of those hard drives dies, together you can combine the data from other hard drives and not lose anything. RAID is used for both hot and warm storage, which means that data that's in that 1 to 5 year range. RAID is great, but it's not archival. They're still just hard drives and they're eventually going to fail. The geeks in IT really love RAID, but they put way too much trust in it. And in fact, they use RAID as an excuse not to have a backup. I've personally had 2 full RAID arrays go down and I've lost data. So just back up those RAIDs. Next up is cloud storage. Cloud storage is not only easy, but it's also convenient. That's because you offload all the hard parts of storage to somebody else. Just remember that with cloud storage, you're just renting somebody else's hard drive. There's no magic to it. For that reason, the biggest drawback of cloud storage is the cost. It's super expensive, and right now cloud storage is going to run you anywhere from $5 to $100 per terabyte per month. Another issue is that you're trusting somebody else to manage that data. That company is susceptible to hardware failures, malware attacks, and maybe even in the worst case scenario, they could go bankrupt overnight, and you might not be able to access your archive. Cloud storage might be a part of your overall archiving plan, but it shouldn't ever be the entire plan. Cloud works great for warm storage, but the cost of archiving to cloud for several years gets really expensive. Next up are SSDs, or solid-state hard drives. They're really small and fast, but they're also 3 times more expensive than spinning hard drives. Solid-state drives are great for hot storage, which means that they are mounted on your computer so that you can download, organize, and edit all your photos and videos. SSDs are fast and reliable, as long as they're not sitting on a shelf. SSDs, they use an electrical charge to open or close a magnetic gate. SSDs use an electrical charge to open or close a magnetic gate that determines the ones and the zeros of your data. If an SSD is unmounted for a very long period of time, that charge fades and those gates will eventually fail, which results in data corruption. They call this voltage leakage, and I sure hope there's a pill for that. Most manufacturers state that you need to mount SSDs at least 1 time a year to maintain data integrity. And for that reason, SSDs should never be used for archival storage. Next up are HDDs, or hard disk drives. For most creatives, hard drives are going to be the best option for creating an archive. Hard disk drives have a spinning disk inside them and they're really reliable and only cost about $25 per terabyte. They're also much slower than SSDs, but when it comes to archiving data, speed isn't everything. Most drives are rated for 3 to 5 years of constant usage. So the question really is how long do they survive when they're sitting on a shelf? If you take good care of them, they'll last a long time. We recommend that you mount your drives at least once a year to check on them and make sure that the data is safe. Hard drives come in 2 flavors. External, that are usually mounted in a USB enclosure, or internal. We've used plenty of USB drives over the years and their biggest weakness is the enclosure itself. If your hard drive stops mounting on your computer, it's often the USB connection in the enclosure that has gone bad. Try removing the drive and connecting it directly to the computer through an adapter and you'd be surprised how many times it solves the problem. We actually recommend using bare internal drives with a USB dock. They're really inexpensive and you can mount multiple drives at once to them. In the end, hard drives are still a mechanical device with lots of sensitive moving parts, and hard drives will always fail. It's just a question of when. A really good tip for you is when you're unmounting your spinning hard drive from your desktop, power it off and then count to 10 before actually touching and moving the drive. That will decrease the risk of damaging the drive. And finally, we have LTO tape. LTO stands for linear tape open. It's essentially a souped-up version of an 8-track cassette tape. Now, tape has been really reliable because it's been used in data storage for decades, especially for broadcast and video applications. Once you've copied your data to a tape, it can easily sit on a shelf for 30 years without any additional maintenance. Like most media, it will last longer in temperature and humidity controlled environments. It also excels in its simplicity. If a tape breaks, it can be easily fixed, unlike a hard drive. LTO 9 is the current tape standard, and each tape will hold about 18 terabytes of data, and each cassette only costs about $100, which works out to $5.50 per terabyte of data. LTO tape is the most cost-effective archival storage solution out there. Tape works very differently than a traditional hard drive. The data is stored linearly, so that transferring and reading data off of an LTO cartridge is a much slower process than a hard drive. In fact, it takes me about 72 hours to transfer 18 terabytes of data to a tape. Think of it like a book. In a normal book, you can open up an index and say, oh, chapter 12 is on page 80, and jump right to that chapter. But with LTO, you look up chapter 12 in the table of contents, but then you have to turn each page one by one until you get to page 80. For me, that isn't a concern. I'm not working off of tapes for my day-to-day work. It's an archival solution and it's offline. If I'm having to use a tape backup, I'm already having a bad day. As long as I can access the photos, that's all that matters. So what's the catch? Well, there's a slight barrier to entry, and it's this. The tape drives can cost $5,000 to $8,000, and that makes tape impractical for most creatives. If you're managing an archive that's over 100 terabytes in size, you might want to think about using LTO. Since many video professionals already use tape in their archives, you might want to already have a friend or a coworker that has an LTO drive. If so, buy them a box of donuts and make a really inexpensive archival copy of all your data. There isn't one single solution for every creative. You need to take into account your archiving goals, your digital assets, and your resources and come up with a plan that will work for you. Whatever solution you land on, please make sure that it is organized and adhered to. I suggest that you create a short document that outlines your data management plan. It should explain the goals of your archive, your filing numbering system, captioning, and your plan for managing the archive. Explain where your backups are stored and how often you need to check on them or add to them. Think of this as a kind of a will for your data. If you get hit by a bus tomorrow, somebody will need to be able to read the document and understand how you rename, caption, and archive all your photos and videos. Let me give you a brief overview of our data management plan. Once we've completed the culling and editing process, we copy the shoot folder to a RAID server in our data center. RAID is what we use for warm storage, and the last 5 to 6 years of data are going to be accessible on that RAID. That RAID is also backed up to the box every single evening, and that's done through an automated script. Every January, we clean up the folders and we make sure that we didn't miss any. Then we will copy a full backup of the entire year to 2 different hard drives. I try to purchase hard drives from different companies. That way, if a manufacturer has a bad batch of drives, we have at least one copy that is still accessible. One drive is called the access copy, and that's the drive that's stored here in our office in an anti-static foam case. This is the drive we're going to use when we need to get something that's older than 5 years old, and it's no longer on our server. The other drive is called our archive copy, and that's the drive that resides at my house in an anti-static turtle case. Every summer we pull the hard drives and we spin them up and run them through a software called Drive DX. And that software checks for bad sectors and lets us know if we need to replace the drive soon. So if we have any signs that the drive is starting to fail, we'll just make a full new copy right there and switch that out into the archive. This year we purchased our first LTO drive, and I just finished making a full backup of our entire archive. Right now, my intention is to send this copy to University Archive so that they have a full backup of all of our data. LTO doesn't need to have any yearly maintenance performed on it, so right now my plan is to check on those cassettes every 5 years. I don't know what the next storage format is going to be, but when that technology does come along and matures, I'm going to go ahead and make a full backup of my data on that format. You need to keep migrating your data forward, constantly focused on preserving this visual history for future generations. Just to recap, the best way to build and maintain a digital archive is to, 1, have multiple copies in multiple locations, and 2, keep migrating that data forward. And if you follow those 2 simple rules, your content will outlast you. And when you finally do pass on, hopefully people will be able to come to your beautiful funeral and say, oh, what a shame. But at least we still have all their photos and videos. So with that happy thought, let me just add that if you have any questions, feel free to hit us up in the comments below, and we'll see you at the cemetery.